WisconsinEye's Campaign 2024 programming is sponsored by Wisconsin Counties Association, Nicolet National Bank, Wisconsin Hospital Association, Operating Engineers Local 139, the Wisconsin Realtors Association, the Wisconsin Laborers District Council, and North Central State's Regional Council of Carpenters. To support programs like this, please consider a tax-deductible donation at wiseye.org/donate or by texting WisCI to 44321.
David Marstellar of Milwaukee is the Democratic candidate for the 21st Assembly District. The election is November 5th. David Marstellar, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me. I'm grateful to be here.
Oh, thank you for participating in our candidate interviews. I'll start by asking you, what's your campaign's key message? Why are you running for this office?
Well, Governor Evers' fair maps have made this a very competitive district, and I decided to use my voice and this opportunity to advocate for my fellow community members.
Key message?
Key message for me is healthcare affordability and accessibility, because in January I will celebrate 6 years post-heart transplant, which was made possible by the Affordable Care Act. I want to make sure that no one in Wisconsin has to go to bed at night wondering whether they will have the means to live or die, whether they will go bankrupt, whether they will lose their home. That's an untenable situation in our state, and no one should have to face that, especially in Wisconsin.
So if you're elected, what's an example of a bill that would be priority for you to introduce?
We're shift gears here. Priority bill for me would be to address reckless and drunken driving. It's at epidemic levels in our communities, and it needs to be addressed firmly.
So if you enter the Assembly, you're entering during a biennial budget year. The state has projected more than $3 billion surplus. What would be your top two priorities for use of that surplus funding?
We need to fund our public schools and our public university system. We need to expand Medicaid and Badger Care, which wouldn't really cost a lot of state money because a lot of that is federal.
What about tax cuts or tax reform? Is that part of your agenda in some way?
Yes, we must lower taxes in Wisconsin for the middle class and lower wage earners, not to corporations and billionaires.
So you mentioned education as a priority for you, K-12 education. What change would you specifically be proposing in K-12 education?
Wisconsin has always been known for having a world-class education system, but in the last few years, our public education system has been vastly underfunded. I would advocate for funding our public schools, attracting high-quality teachers, building a brain force in our state that will stay in our state and thrive in our state.
You also mentioned higher education as a priority. So what does the future of the state's higher education system look like to you, though, including four-year colleges, two-year colleges, technical colleges? Where should the legislature be focusing?
The legislature should be focusing on funding University of Wisconsin system and other educational systems such as technical and trade schools. We've had an issue with smaller two-year campuses being forced to close. That's not a sustainable situation. If we educate our workforce adequately in Wisconsin, they will stay in Wisconsin, they will work in Wisconsin, they will build a better future for Wisconsin. That's very important to me.
What do you see as the state's largest workforce development challenge, and how would you propose to address it?
Well, Wisconsin is at historic low levels of unemployment, but we will be facing a workforce shortage. We need to attract talented, educated, quality individuals to the state to retain and build and keep building our... Wisconsin is one of the best states in the United States, and we need to keep it there.
Is there some specific sort of policy or investment that you think helps to do what you're saying in terms of retaining or attracting workers? Some would say it's the tax system, some would say it's the quality of life, that there's things are connected. What would you say is it that the legislature can do that helps to retain that workforce?
Infrastructure, quality of life, and investment in education, investment in health care.
Investments in public and energy infrastructure grow our state's economy. This also provides opportunity to invest in our state's workforce, but currently there are no requirements for hiring local workers. Would you support a state resident hiring requirement for state, local, and utility scale infrastructure investments?
Yes, I would, because when we hire Wisconsin workers, especially on public projects that are funded by taxpayers, we keep that money in Wisconsin. They pay sales tax, income tax in Wisconsin. The money stays in our state to help keep our state strong and fiscally sound.
Employee classification is an issue in the construction industry. Some employers misclassify workers as independent contractors or pay them in cash off the books. This lowers costs by avoiding payroll taxes and unemployment insurance, and it puts compliant companies at a disadvantage when bidding on projects. Plus, misclassified workers may be denied minimum wage protections or overtime pay. Are you aware of this issue, and what do you think should be done about it?
I'm aware of this issue, and it needs to be addressed. We need to hire Wisconsin workers. We need to be sure they have workplace protections, are paid a fair wage, benefits, paid time off, family medical leave.
Invest in workers.
And workman's compensation, that they're paid a fair wage.
Affordable rental housing is an issue in Wisconsin, and some support government-imposed rent control to maintain affordability, while others argue keeping rent artificially low will decrease rental supply, resulting in increased prices. What is your sense of housing as an issue? What are you hearing in your district, and what best addresses rental housing affordability, rent control or building more rentals?
Well, the cost of housing is out of control in Wisconsin, particularly in Milwaukee County. We do need to address the issues of the cost of housing, the cost of child care, the cost of property taxes. As for rent controls, that is an issue I would need to study further because it's not something I've even considered before.
Would you be supportive of building more rental housing or the state providing incentives?
I'd be highly supportive of building more rental housing or permanent housing. Affordable permanent housing.
Moving on to healthcare. Medical systems are facing numerous headwinds in the form of inflation, workforce development, and issues around Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, resulting in fewer services and even the closure of a hospital system in western Wisconsin. What would you do to preserve access to care and prevent future closures?
Folks in Wisconsin deserve a high-quality, world-class health care system. I will work to build a healthier state for everyone by expanding access to affordable, accessible health care, including the expansion of Medicaid and Badger Care. As I stated earlier, my life was literally saved by the Affordable Care Act, and I want to make sure that all Wisconsinites have access to the health care I was ultimately able to achieve.
Do you support increasing the Medicaid reimbursement rate to hospitals?
Yes, I do.
Mental health care is also a growing concern for Wisconsinites and concern for state and county budgets. In your district, what are you hearing on this issue, and how would you propose addressing mental health care?
Well, mental health care is health care. It's a holistic approach, mind, body, and when we're investing in health care, we must also invest in mental health care at the same time because they are two peas of the same pod.
So is any specific area of investment?
Healthy minds are healthy bodies.
Investment with children, adults, both?
from birth to death.
How should Wisconsin move forward on the issue of abortion?
For me, as an aspiring politician, it is not for me to decide. I trust women and their health care providers to make their own decision. We must repeal the archaic 1849 abortion ban law, but I trust women to make their own decisions.
Is there any number of weeks that you think there should be a limit on abortion?
No, as I stated, I trust women and their physicians to make those decisions for themselves.
What are the pressing transportation needs in your district, and how important is that these are addressed, and for the state to keep on schedule with the reconstruction of our aging interstates and significant corridors of commerce?
Transportation. Well, Milwaukee County has a really good bus system, so I'm very pleased with that. It could be improved, of course. As for infrastructure and highway construction, Wisconsin has 2 seasons, summer and highway construction, so I feel like we're doing a good job of taking care of our highways. We do need to make sure that we are hiring Wisconsin workers to do this, however.
PFAS and other water contaminants are a concern for a growing number of Wisconsinites. Do you see this as an important issue, and how would you propose to address it?
It is a vital issue because these are permanent, forever chemicals. They get in our body, they get in our food supply, and we don't know what the long-term effects of these are going to be. Wisconsinites deserve clean, pure, potable access to good water.
Is there some role for the legislature in supporting that goal?
Yes, they must release the funding to combat the PFAS in our water system and to replace the lead pipes.
We're down to our final 2 questions. How would you describe the leading differences between you and your opponent?
Oh, I wrote that down somewhere. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's all right. People can look at their notes.
Okay. Well, number one, I wish to be sure that everyone has access to affordable health care, as I've mentioned before, including covering pre-existing conditions, which my competitor has voted against numerous times. I want to fund our public school system adequately, and I want no child to go hungry in this state. Those are the differences between me and my opponent.
Final question for you. Let's say you're elected this fall. You get a magic wand you can use in the state capitol to resolve one issue in a way that brings all people, all parties together. What would that issue be?
That issue would be Medicaid and Badger Care expansion to assure health care access to all Wisconsinites. Quality health care.
Well, thank you, David Marstellar from Milwaukee, the Democratic candidate for the 21st Assembly District. The election is November 5th. David Marstellar, thank you for talking with WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me, and I really appreciate your time.
This programming is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Thank you for watching.